Jonah Epiphany with another sports reaction. This time I'm doing a prediction video with the Super Bowl between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. Man, it's been a real good playoffs. It's been a real good season. My team, of course, didn't make it. A lot of people teams didn't make it. It's the reason for the playoffs. It's the reason for this season. It's the reason why we love the NFL to see what's gonna happen during that season, and then see what's gonna come through and see if our team's gonna make it. But right now, it's down to the final two teams. It's the Kings of the AFC and the Kings of the AFC and the NFC of this year, which once again the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. Both teams have scored a lot of points, more particularly the Kansas City Chiefs, who putting up, I think, somewhere between 38 points per game, maybe. But basically, these teams is, man, it's just going to be excellent Super Bowl. It's probably going to be one of the best Super Bowls that I'm going to probably see since possibly San Francisco versus Baltimore. Even though I still feel like the NFL did something to the lights to make sure that Baltimore lost momentum during that season, because they were just straight up just waxing the floor with motherfucking San Francisco 49ers. But they back again with a new quarterback, new system, new coach, everything. But I'm going to start off basically talking about the Kansas City Chiefs before I get to the 49ers. Going to break down basically every important player that is essential to basically manipulating this game. All the other players are more of a supporting cast to me personally, based on what I've seen during the playoffs and based on what I've been looking at when I'm looking at film on both teams throughout the entire season. These players I know for a fact is going to impact the game because they've been impacting the game all season. And starting off with the Kansas City Chiefs is Patrick Mahomes. Despite the knee injury, despite everything, he's basically still one of the top quarterbacks in the league. I personally have him ranked number one overall as the top quarterback in the league this season. He's basically done everything he needed to do. Yes, touchdown ratio basically got chopped in half, but it doesn't make a difference. Can't nobody keep putting up them damn mad numbers every goddamn season. If someone does, I haven't seen it. Not even the likes of Vic been able to put up his mad numbers every season. It's usually just up and down. But he's basically been the best quarterback in the league since his second season, and basically he's going to continue to do that. So far in the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes is 46 of 70, 65.7% completion percentage, 615 yards, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's basically been almost flawless throughout the playoffs. He has one fumble, which, based on what he's done throughout the playoffs, don't really mean nothing, because he also has 15 carries for 106 yards, 7.1 yards per carry, and also a rushing touchdown. So there's 9 total touchdowns, only 1 turnover, no interceptions. That is excellent. Don't care who it is, what quarterback it is, that is excellent to have, especially during the playoffs. Regular season don't mean nothing if you cannot produce in the playoffs, and that's something that he has been doing basically all season, with the playoffs being basically included in it. Up next, we got the starting running back, Damian Williams. He really hasn't been doing much, but that's mainly because Patrick Mahomes been having to just dig them out of a hole, because they went down in a hole for 2 straight weeks. 1 week against the Texans, down 21 points. Next week, they was down 17-7 and still just found a way to come back and constantly just dominate the games. But Damian Williams, in the little time that he really had to rush the football in the 2 games that they played, 29 carries, 92 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 7 receptions for 65 yards, and also a receiving touchdown. So he's been more of a dual back, basically out of the backfield, running the football, mainly receiving the football in the games. Well, mainly rushing the football, but he's still been basically that dual threat back that everyone expect every running back to be in the NFL so far this season. And so far he has produced very well in the playoffs. Overall, he hasn't gotten the yards per carry. He don't average over 4 yards per carry, but basically getting 3 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown, you're doing your job as the starting running back, plain and simple. Up next, the starting wide receiver Sammy Watkins. He's played pretty well this postseason, especially the last game. He had, I think, maybe 9 receptions over 100 yards, 10 receptions over 100 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns or 1 receiving touchdown, I think. I believe it's 1 receiving touchdown in that game. But so far, yes, it is 1 receiving. So far he's had nine receptions for over 200 yards, receiving touchdown. That's his stat line. Basically, just dominated the last game. That's what brought his yards up. Because I think the game before that against the Texans, he had like 2 receptions for like 75 yards in that game. And then the following game, he just stepped it up and was like the main major target. He's done everything he needs to do. Hopefully, he can show up in the Super Bowl and be that same outstanding target that he's been basically throughout the postseason if you go by averages. Up next, we have the tight end, number 87, Travis Kelce. He's been dominant here and there. The first game, he was really, really just dominant. He had like 5, 6 receptions for like 134 yards, 3 touchdowns. This game, he was held to 3 receptions. The last game, he was held to 3 receptions for about 30 yards. But they really didn't need him that much in between. He just caught basically game clinching first down. So every time it seemed like basically the Titans were going to try to do a comeback, anything like that, or their defense seemed like they was going to stop Kansas City, he would catch those balls on third down, go down the field, basically, and just basically end all hopes for the Titans. That's basically what he did last game, and I expect him to have a big game against the 49ers because that's one thing I do know you can attack the 49ers with, and that is a tight end and a big receiver, which I don't think the 49ers have a big receiver, but a big tight end they do have, but I will talk about their tight end later on. Right now, we're still talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. And next up is the most dynamic player out of all of them, better than Sammy Watkins, better than Travis Kelce, and that is Tyreek Hill. So far, he's been okay, but I'm pretty sure he's going to show out in the Super Bowl. So far, he has 8 receptions for just 108 yards, 2 touchdowns. But the last game, he did score his 2 postseason touchdowns. He did make himself more of a target in the last game, and basically he didn't get his ass whacked like he did against the Texans with the Texans safety basically blowing him up, and he's being a non-factor for the rest of the game. That didn't happen in this game, and he basically showed his ass. And he's one of the next players next to Travis Kelce that I know for a fact that 9 times out of 10 will have an excellent game against that defense. And yeah, that's basically what I'm predicting right now. But furthermore, we're going to talk about the Kansas City defense. And once again, I'm saying it to everyone. I'm only listing the players that I feel that will impact the game more than any other player on the team. So if your player is not listed on this, it's because I feel like he's not a big impact player. He's more of a supporting player. These players will impact the game, manipulate the game in the best way possible. So furthermore, we're going to talk about the defense yet again, and we're talking about one of the safeties, number 49, Daniel Sorensen. So far in the playoffs, he has 17 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 forced fumble, and a pass deflection. He's been basically all over the field. He's leading the team in tackles. He's been doing so basically the entire postseason. He didn't lead the team in tackles in the regular season, but he basically came to play. He's basically in on every play constantly, and I basically feel like he's going to do that in the Super Bowl as well. Next up is Damian Wilson. He is number 54, the linebacker for also the Kansas City Chiefs. He's second in the team with 15 tackles, one tackle for a loss. Another player that is definitely in on almost every play. He's gonna always be on every play. He's always gonna be there for the tackle or at least gang tackling or just basically somewhere in the vicinity of the play constantly. He is one of those type of players. He's been doing it all season, and I don't feel like there's no other reason for him not to be basically that same type of player, much more like Sorensen. And then next up, you have Tyrone Matthew, only 12 tackles, one pass deflection, three pass deflections, one tackle for a loss. Another player that's all over the field. Everyone knows that that's the type of player he is. He's more of a ball hawk, but he can deliver that big hit. He's been doing it all season with the Kansas City Chiefs. He did it with the Texans, and he did it previously with the Cardinals before he had his injuries. And I still don't know why the Cardinals got rid of him. That it's just fucking retarded, but that's the reason why they asked the Cardinals. But basically, he's been another dominant player, and I don't think he's not gonna stop making all those tackles. He's probably gonna wind up with an interception, either him or Sorensen. It's gonna wind up with an interception because they just those type of players, especially Matthew. He's gonna continue to get his plays in basically. And then up next we have the defensive end who's just been wreaking havoc the entire playoffs. Number 55, Frank Clark. He only has 8 tackles, but out of those 8 tackles, he has 4 sacks. That's basically all you can ask for is for your defensive players to step up and do their thing. And Frank Clark been dominating all season. He had over 10 plus sacks during the season, and he's going to continue to do so as well throughout these playoffs, basically. He's basically showed up, showed out, 8 tackles, 4 sacks. He's probably going to wind up having a sack or 2 during a Super Bowl if they cannot protect Jimmy Garoppolo. He is another player to definitely look out. If you are a 49ers player, 49ers fans, I'm pretty sure you already know who to look out for. And I'm pretty sure you're biting your teeth and all the above, grinning your teeth and biting your nails and everything else, hoping that these players basically do not show out and the 49ers basically show up and do their thing as well. Because this team defense has been extraordinary. They don't have the interceptions, but they do have 8 sacks in the postseason. So I do just want to put that out there. This team has been getting to the quarterback constantly. It was at one point, they was getting to the quarterback, but they were just giving up yards and yards down the field. They still kind of sort of do that sometimes, but they can basically just sack your quarterback, beat up your running back, because they beat up Derrick Henry last game. He didn't have nowhere near the game that he had against against any team in the playoffs, basically. I think they held him to like 69 yards rushing, 73 yards rushing, and a rushing touchdown. That's all he did. He was averaging 188 yards per game throughout the playoffs, and they basically just turned him into a nobody, basically, that game. They said that he was soft. They said all the above. They was talking all that smack, and they backed it up, and they basically beat the Titans almost at their own game. They ran the ball when they needed to, and they made and Patrick Mahomes made all the plays that he needed to, especially that long, like 29-yard run that he ran, breaking tackles constantly, and instead of players just trying to get him down, they trying to go for the football, allow him to break those tackles. He went in, scored a touchdown, basically broke the Titans back, and one of the main reasons why they're in the Super Bowl right now. So yeah, Kansas City Chiefs is looking very dangerous for the San Francisco 49ers, and hopefully they can get it together. And talking about those San Francisco 49ers, here's the stat line that I'm going with these guys so far in the postseason. Jimmy Garoppolo, we're going to start off with the quarterback. He is 17 of 27. He only completed 63% of his passes. He usually completed somewhere around 65, 66 in the season. He was a very good quarterback, almost threw for 4,000 yards, think almost 30 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions, had a 100 quarterback rating. But so far in the playoffs, basically they haven't needed him much. He only has 208 passing yards, 7.7 passing average. For the people that don't know, that's when he throw the ball down the field. Is averaged out to about 7.7. That's what he's been doing in the playoffs, which is actually up for what he did in the season. In the season, it was usually 6.3, but his receivers break tackles and all the above, and they also get down the field more than any other receiver, which I think is 6.6 yards after catch, which is the highest in the NFL. But they haven't been doing that so far during the playoffs, and they really haven't had to because the running back's been dominating. And Jimmy Garoppolo, of course, threw one touchdown and one interception and has an 83.6 quarterback rating. Also, Mahomes has, just backtracking a little bit just because I have to bring that up because I'm bringing up quarterback ratings. Patrick Mahomes has 131.5 quarterback rating. So, yeah, it's really going to be the battle of the quarterbacks and the battle of which team can make the most plays in the end, which it is with every game. But yeah, let's see who's going to make the most plays. But back to the 49ers. Right now, Raheem Mostert, he just straight up dominated the Packers the last game. He had 220 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns against the Packers. And so far throughout the postseason, he has 41 total carries, 278 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, 6.8 yards per carry. Just flat out just been destroying the teams that they go against. He has 220 of his yards came against the Packers. But before that game, before the injury, we still had a high rushing average. Still was getting a nice amount of carries, and he still had 1 rushing touchdown before that injury. Also, I don't know what's going to happen by the time the Super Bowl hit, but by the time this video come out, Tevin Coleman is still questionable. I did read that Kyle Shanahan has said Friday that everything is looking good with Coleman. He practiced on the sideline away from the team basically during practice, and his MRI is looking good for his shoulder. So by the time of the Super Bowl, Coleman may be starting, but I'd rather have Mostert play more frequently than Coleman because Coleman coming off a shoulder injury. Yeah, it's a Super Bowl. I know he's going to play. I know he's going to probably get an injection in that shoulder so he'll be able to play. But all it takes is one big hit. He's done. Career could possibly be done too. And Tevin Coleman, before his injury in the second game, he had 28 carries so far total, 126 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, 2 rushing touchdowns so far. But once again, like I said, by the time of this video, Coleman may be starting. But right now he is listed as questionable. Up next is their wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Of course, like I said, once again, this team, San Francisco 49ers, really haven't had to use their quarterback. Their defense and running game really has dominated the entire game. So really, there is no need to pass for the ball. Garoppolo only threw the ball 8 times last game, completed 6. So that's basically letting you know, really haven't had to really do much. But Deebo, in the 2 games that he played, he has 5 receptions for 88 yards and no receiving touchdowns. But he also has 3 carries for 49 yards, I guess, on end rounds. I can't really remember what happened on those plays, but basically they're using him also as a receiver and a running back, and he's played well when his name is called. The next receiver is Kendrick Bourne. Yet again, not flashy stats. Only 4 receptions, 46 yards, but he do have the single touchdown from Garoppolo in the postseason. That was the first game against the Vikings. Once again, straight ass whooping, 27-10. But yeah, basically, the receiving core the stats is not going to look spectacular for them because defense has dominated. And the next is George Kittle, the Pro Bowl tight end who had over 1,000 yards this season, 85 receptions, I think maybe 5 or 6 touchdowns receiving. in the regular season. But in the postseason, yet again, mediocre yards, mediocre receptions, 4 receptions for 35 yards, 8.8 yards per reception for George Kittle. And then now we move on to the defense. This one to get real interesting. We got Nick Bosa, who is basically just leading the charge for this team. 10 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 pass deflection. He got the pass deflection 2 games ago, 3 sacks in the last 2 games, 10 total tackles. He is basically a monster out there. I didn't know much about Nick Bosa. Didn't know much about him or his brother. I guess I found out about his brother earlier this season when the Bears played the Chargers, with him just bowling through and getting that sack. And then watching Nick Bosa basically throughout these playoffs, and then going back and watching film on him, he is a game wrecker. I wouldn't say he's on a level of Julius Peppers, but I would put him in that conversation of being a game wrecker, much like him, or back in the day for the Packers, Kabir Abadji-Miller. Yeah, that's a lot. There's a lot coming out of that. But basically, yeah, he's on that level with those type of players, capable of getting 10 plus sacks every season and possibly getting an interception or 2, and possibly running back to the house. Yeah, that's basically what Nick Bosa is. One of those guys. Julius Peppers, Jason Taylor, Kabir Abadji-Miller. One of those type of guys. One of those type of special players that can do this every season unless injury happen. Hoping it don't. But basically, that's the type of player he is. Next that we have his fellow defensive end teammate, who is Eric Armstead, who don't have as many tackles, don't have as many sacks, but he's still been an impact just as much. He also had 10 plus sacks throughout the regular season. Matter of fact, I think he just finished with 10 sacks, just to be exact. But Armstead in the playoffs has had 5 tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. Once again, when both your pass rushers is dominating, all they can do is try to go up the middle, and that create even more sacks for your D tackles, basically helping them out, making the quarterback have nowhere to run, and that's how interceptions be created. That's how further turnovers be created by your team. When your pass rushers is playing well, it makes it easy for your cornerbacks, and basically that's what they've been doing. That's why next up I'm talking about Richard Sherman, who his job been a lot easier, even though he did get burned on that one play by Adams. But other than that, he's a solid corner. He's been a solid corner his entire career, even going back with the Legion of Boom with Seattle, and now being with the 49ers. Yeah, his stats don't look all good in terms of only having 4 tackles in 2 games, but he does have 2 interceptions and also 2 pass deflections. His coverage skills are still there. He might not be the type of dynamic player he was with Seattle, but being the type of player he is, and in that mouth, he still, of course, considers himself to be the top cornerback in the league. I don't think he still is anymore. I think that probably go to Jalen Ramsey. But being top 5 cornerback, I will say that at most. He is still top 5 cornerbacks in the league, and he's shown basically by having those 2 interceptions and 2 pass deflections, and only giving up that one big play to just a dominant receiver in Devontae Adams anyway. So yeah, dominant. Up next, you have the 2 linebackers, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. Fred Warner has only 13 tackles, 1 pass deflection, but Greenlaw has stepped it up. He has also 10 tackles, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. Those players will also just run all over the field, make those tackles, and just be a havoc for an offensive coordinator. I know they got a lot of work to work on just to figure out what's going to happen between these teams. And man, it's going to be real tough. The question I constantly keep hearing around the NFL and around all media outlets is, can Kansas City offense beat the San Francisco 49ers defense? And I'm going to say yes. Can they do it consistently? That I don't know, but I do know they will be able to put up points on this dominant defense, because they already face a team basically similar to the 49ers, other than probably not having the better quarterback, and that's with the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans ran the football like crazy. Quarterback didn't have to do much. Play defense. Now that can come back to bite the 49ers because the 49ers have not been using Jimmy Garoppolo. He can wind up being cold, yada yada yada, all that extra shit. But I don't know if Garoppolo is going to be basically Ryan Tannehill. I don't think he's just going to throw for 208 yards. He's going to throw some close touchdowns, red zone touchdowns, and that's just going to be it. He's just going to fold. I believe Garoppolo is going to play well in this game because I'm pretty sure they're going to need him. Pretty much like the Titans needed Ryan Tannehill, but he's going to perform better. I believe he's going to throw for at least 250 yards, probably 2 or 3 touchdowns. That can be interchangeable between rushing or passing. It depends, depending on how close he is to the red zone and how much they just leave him just wide open for something like that to happen. Basically, like what the Titans did with Patrick Mahomes. And man, this is going to be a real tough game to basically declare. And so far, based on what I've seen from both teams, seem like the Chiefs, even though they're not a more complete team than the 49ers, to me, their offense is playing a lot better. Yeah, you could say, well, the 49ers, yet again, hasn't needed Garoppolo because the run game and their defense has been excellent. But by not using him, it can possibly backfire and you can have basically another Ryan Tannehill situation. Well, yeah, he's finally stepping up a little bit, but the running game suffers and the defense don't make those same type of plays that they've been making. So my prediction is most likely going to be the Chiefs winning this game, maybe 27-24, probably last second field goal, or just 49ers don't make those plays in the end. So that's my prediction. Chiefs win, and Patrick Mahomes' legend just continues. Now, if the 49ers do win, it'll just probably piss off Bill Belichick even more because he like, fuck, I had my quarterback and we had to stay with this old ass man another few seasons. Regardless of the fact that they still wind up winning, 2-3 more Super Bowls, regardless. So yeah, that's my prediction. Chiefs win 27-24 most likely because I'm pretty sure they're going to put up points. Both teams going to put up points. Both team defense is going to play hard. I feel like even an unsung hero might come up and step up, which my unsung hero for the Chiefs would be Terrell Suggs. He makes a lot of pressures, just having me getting the tackles and the sacks. And the unsung hero for the 49ers will have to be Jimmy Garoppolo because he hasn't done much. So if he steps up and he do what he's supposed to do, basically do what he's been doing in the regular season, then yes, this team will definitely have a chance to win the Super Bowl and could possibly steal the Super Bowl away from the Chiefs. But right now, yet again, Chiefs 27-24. I have to keep saying it just to get it out the way. But yeah, this is Jonah Pitney with another sports reaction. And good night, everybody.